Ras Makonnen Wolde Michael Wolde Melekot, or simply Ras Makonnen, also known as Abba Kagnu, was an Ethiopian royal from Shua, a military leader, the governor of Harar, and the father of future Emperor Haile Selassie. Described by Nikolai Gumilev as one of the greatest leaders of Abyssinia, he served in the First Italo-Ethiopian War, playing a key role at the Battle of Adwa. Ras Makonnen was commonly referred to as the Napoleon of Africa. Ras Makonnen Wolde Michael Wolde Melekot was born at Darifo Mariam near Ankober, in what was then in the province of Menz, to his mother Wazero Tenegnwerk Sala Selassie and his father Dejazmak Wolde Michael Wolde Melekot, who was the governor of the provinces Menz and Doba, which are located in Semien Shua. Ras Makonnen Wolde Michael was the father of Emperor Haile Selassie, and first cousin and close confidant of Emperor Menelik II. He was the grandson of King Sala Selassie of Shua through his mother Tenegnwerk Sala Selassie. At the age of 14 his father took him and raised at the court of his first cousin Menelik, who was then king of Shua. Makonnen was the relative who was probably closest to the future relative and was regarded by Menelik as something of a younger brother. He served in Menelik's military campaigns to restore the lost southern regions to the Ethiopian crown. In 1887, Makonnen was given the governorship of Harar after it was incorporated into the Ethiopian Empire by his cousin, Emperor Menelik, following the Battle of Kalenko. According to Jules Borelli, Harar was pillaged by Abyssinian soldiers with half its population fleeing, despite pleas from the despoiled locals to Makonnen. The Harari people soon revolted, which followed Makonnen storming the town with his troops, razing and plundering residences. According to Hararis, the oppression of Harari people began with the invasion of Harar by Ras Makonnen, which followed mosques changed into churches and Abyssinian Christians arriving from the north to settle in the town. Makonnen had ordered the primary mosque of Harar to be replaced by an Orthodox church. In the 1880s, as Shum of Harar, Ras Makonnen became a close friend of the French poet, Arthur Rimbaud, who was then living and doing business in that province. His Amhara, Tigray, and Oromo ethnicity helped him become a shuttle diplomat, bringing peace to regions that did not comply with Emperor Menelik's central government. Due to his Tigray identity, he was able to march to the region of Tigray and accord peace with Ras Mengesha, the son of Emperor Yohannes, who had rebelled against Emperor Menelik. His Oromo ethnicity coupled with his father-in-law's Muslim and Oromo heritage helped him win the favor of locals to eventually become the first governor of Harar. With 82 mosques and 102 shrines, Harar is the fourth holiest city of the Islamic world. The Ras transformed Harar into a unique hub for people of multi-religious and multi-ethnic backgrounds to live in peace and harmony. Even though he did not live to see it, every groundbreaking vision the Ras initiated in Harar was a success story. Education was a quintessential element to Ras Makonnen. In 1900, he sent a young Tekul Hawariat to Russia, who later became the author of the first written Ethiopian constitution. At home, the Ras established the first school in his palace compound. His son, Lij Tafari, the Emperor of Ethiopia, Lij Imru, the most beloved Ras, Lij Bishard, the first mayor of Derrida, Zudi Balain, the first Ministry of Labor, and Dr. Malaku, the first degree holder from the U.S., and founder of EWF, were the products of the Harar school. When Lij Tafari, Lij Imru, and Lij Bishard moved to Addis Ababa to join the Emperor Menelik school, the school's professor had to create a special class because their knowledge was more advanced than the rest of the local students, such as Lij Iyasu, the grandson of Emperor Menelik, the leader of Ethiopia from 1913 to 16. The first high official of Emperor Menelik in Europe was Ras Makonnen. The Ras went to Italy to sign the Treaty of Wuchel in 1892. After he signed the treaty, he learned that this treaty had two different versions. Afwerk Ghebreyesus was a student in Rome, helped him to understand the Italian version, which stated that Ethiopia was a colony of Italy. Upon arrival in Addis Ababa, the Ras informed Emperor Menelik that his signature at Wuchel in Ethiopia was also approved the power of Italy over Ethiopia. To strengthen Harar's linkages with the Red Sea and Indian Ocean trade routes, Ras Makonnen appointed Sheikh Muhammad Ali, an Indian businessman, as a Bijirand, treasurer, of the Harar. The Sheikh was in charge of merchant vessels that were deployed on the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. Sheikh Muhammad helped the Ras army with advanced weapons. It was not by accident that the Ras army was armed to the teeth at the Battle of Adwa. The Ras foresaw an inevitable war looming ahead and used Zila, the Somali port, to secure sufficient equipment and manpower. On his way to the battle, the Ras stopped in Addis Ababa to meet with Emperor Menelik. Emperor Menelik, after visiting the Ras's army, with admiration was believed to have said, "Doesn't the throne belong to you, Makonnen?" The Ras replied, "I am here to protect the throne, not overthrow it." The predicament of Ras Makonnen before the war broke out. There was a rumor in Addis Ababa that the Italians were using Ras Makonnen to overthrow the throne of Emperor Menelik. On the other hand, the Ras had the intention of solving the Ethio-Italians crisis through diplomacy. He kept writing to the Italian generals while still marching to the battles. His diplomatic effort was taken as cowardice by the Italian generals, while Empress Teydu considered it as a fulfillment of the plot against her husband, Emperor Menelik. The Ras, in the middle of this dilemma, marched 1,640 kilometers to face the enemy, while Menelik and Teydu's huge armies were behind him. If he did not receive a response letter securing a peaceful solution from the Italians, he would be forced to begin the war before they arrived. However, if he failed to do either, he probably would have been detained by Empress Teydu's men as a traitor. With this background, the Ras had to begin his first battle against the Italian and its alien forces, Eritreans, Somalians, and Libyans. The Ras' first victory at the Battle of Amba Lage had paved a way to the victory of Mekelle and Adwa, which put Ethiopia's, Emperor Menelik, and Empress Teydu's names on the international arena. In 1901, Ras Makonnen provided means and materials to build the first hospital in Harar at his own expense. Joseph Vitalin, a black diaspora, was his private doctor and later that of Emperor Menelik. Dr. Vitalin was also mentor to Lige Tafari, who became the first Ethiopian emperor who claimed blacks in the diaspora as his own subjects. Other posts Ras Makonnen served included temporary governor of Tigray after the removal of the rebellious Ras Mangasha Yohannes, and as a general during various military campaigns during the First Italo-Ethiopian War, including a leading role at the Battle of Adwa where Ethiopian forces routed the Italians, and as a diplomat and de facto foreign minister. In 1902, Ras Makonnen attended the coronation of King Edward VII in London. He arrived in June to the ceremony originally scheduled for June 26, and stayed in Europe while the king recovered from an operation, attending the rescheduled ceremony on August 9. Between these dates, he paid visits to various parts of the United Kingdom, and visited Italy, France, Turkey, and Germany. He received the following decorations: Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George during an audience with King Edward VII on August 8, 1902, Star of the Russian Order of St. Anne, Star of the French Legion d'Honneur, Third Republic, Star of the Order of the Crown of Italy, Star of the Ottoman Order of Osmania. In 1903, the Ras introduced Haji Abdullahi Sadiq, a native Harari, to Emperor Menelik. The Haji was an adventurer and a master in trade throughout the Middle East. While the Haji was in Istanbul, he met Robert Skinner, a U.S. ambassador during the Ottoman Empire. Skinner came to Ethiopia as the first U.S. envoy with the Hajji's connection. 2 years later, Haji Sadiq became the first Ethiopian envoy to the U.S. and presented Emperor Menelik's message to President Theodore Roosevelt. In 1906, Dejazmach Yilma Makonnen succeeded Makonnen as Shum of Harar. Yilma Makonnen was his son from before his marriage to Waziri Yeshimabet Ali. In 1907, Yilma Makonnen was in turn succeeded as Shum by his younger half-brother, Tafari Makonnen, the future Emperor Haile Selassie. Summoned to Addis Ababa by the emperor on business, Ras Makonnen set out from Harar in March 1906 but became suddenly ill on the road and was taken to Kalibi, where he died on March 21, 1906, possibly of typhus. His body was taken to Harar and buried in the Church of St. Michael there, as his son Dejazmach Tafari Makonnen presided over the funeral. Menelik too was distraught upon hearing that his cousin had died and ordered that the Ras 40th day commemoration would be held at the Imperial Palace in Addis Ababa and that he himself would sit as chief mourner. On the day of the 40th day commemoration, the two sons of Ras Makonnen entered the large mourning tent on the grounds of the palace, accompanied by the late prince's retainers, who carried a large painting of the Ras. Menelik too stunned the assembled crowds when, contrary to the long tradition of imperial restraint in all public ceremonies, the emperor rose from his throne wailing, "Makonnen, my son Makonnen, my brother, I have lost my right arm," as he wept and kissed his cousin's portrait, repeatedly reducing his entire court to sobs. The following article is translated from the book of His Excellency, Haile Wolde Selassie, which depicted the prelude of the Battle of Adwa from the bird's-eye view. The Battle of Ambalaj was led by Ras Makonnen as a commander-in-chief. Ras Makan and Ras Mikael on the rear side, Ras Mangesha and Ras Alula on the right flank, Ras Walidi on the left, and Fetwarari Gabehu on front. Headed on horseback, each led their army towards to the Italian trench. To avoid bloodshed, Ras Makonnen wrote the following message to the Italian Major Pietro Toselli: "Though I am here to fight, I still don't want bloodshed, so I would advise you to lead your camp and retreat. Emperor Menelik with his army is advancing swiftly. Please let us avoid this preventable war. I have also an unanswered letter which I wrote to your boss, General Orest Baratieri. I hope your help to get the answer to my letter." Major Toselli's answer was, "The letter has reached to General Baratieri and his response would come in due course. However, if your intention is peaceful, you should have waited in your camp for the answer." Ras Makonnen concluded that peaceful settlement was not attainable and decided to proceed. Fetwarari Gebehu's army advanced throughout the night, and at daybreak it reached the Italian trench and the Italians started to shoot, when the heavy sound of gunfire exchanged between Fetwarari Gebehu's army and the Italian. The rest of the Ethiopian army advanced quickly from all sides to join Fetwarari Gebehu. In a few minutes, the Italian trench was encircled. From the left, as the Ras Walidi's army pushed forcefully, the Italian army started retreating to the hill and began to fire the mortar from the distance. From the center, the armies of Ras Makonnen and Ras Michael jumped over the trench and dashed to the hill. They mixed themselves with the Italian army and fought fiercely hand to hand with sword and shield. I will leave you with final statement of General Baratieri, the commander-in-chief of the Italian army, which he wrote only a few hours before he began the Battle of Adwa. "The battle spirit of my soldiers is so high, but the enemy's is fearless and belittle death." The monument to Ras Makonnen, previously located in Harar, was sculpted in 1959 by Anton Augustinsik, a Croatian sculptor active in former Yugoslavia and the United States. In June 2020, the equestrian monument to Ras Makonnen was toppled and destroyed by Oromo mobs who participated in Hachalu Hundessa riots, following the death of Hachalu Hundessa. It is alleged the Harare Regional State Police officers supported its removal. The event was also followed by smashing of the statue of Ras Makonnen Wolde Michael's son and Ethiopian leader Haile Selassie in Wimbledon Park, UK. Referring to a statue in Addis Ababa of Menelik II, Hachalu told Oromia Media Network, OMN, said that people should remember that all the horses seen mounted by old rulers' leaders belonged to the people.